Hello and welcome to the Car Care Nut channel. So in today's video, we're going to talk about some things you should never do to your manual transmission car. These are some things that could be damaging to your clutch, could be damaging to your transmission, and will add unnecessary expenses to your manual transmission journey, which is becoming a rarity lately. But before we get started, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some of my other videos. If you are a returning subscriber, well, thank you so much for watching another one of my videos. And without further ado, let's get right into it. So the first section of this video, we're going to focus on the clutch. Now the clutch has two components that we're trying to protect here. One of them is the actual friction material. Now this is the material that's going to take a mechanical connection between your engine and your transmission. The second component is the pressure plate, which is what pushes, basically your hydraulic force of pushing the clutch is pushing on to disengage the friction material or the disc. So the first thing we're going to want to do, you're driving your manual transmission. You do not want to put unnecessary strain on both of them at the same time. And you do that by, when you make your shifts, don't push the clutch halfway. That really puts a strain on everything, because now your friction disc is not fully disengaged, it's still turning, and you're trying to engage a gear. Now you're putting strain on your clutch disc, which is still dragging and all of a sudden gets jerked. Not really good. The second thing is your pressure plate, you're pushing it halfway in a non-natural position. The third thing you're actually doing, even though this is not the section for it, you're harming your transmission, because if you don't push the clutch all the way, the gears will grind, and that's not good. The second thing with the clutch, when you're driving, let's say you're in third gear, we're cruising along, don't keep your foot on the clutch pedal, because believe it or not, if you just push it a little bit, you did put some pressure on your pressure plate, and now you're slightly disengaging that clutch. If you accelerate hard, you could slip that clutch, and now you're going to start unnecessary wear. Every time you make a shift, clutch off, foot off the clutch pedal, on the rest pedal. Always do this to not purposefully start wearing your clutch and overheating it and causing problems that are very simply resolved just by taking your foot off the clutch. And the other thing is, let's say you're cruising, you're coming to a stop, you go into neutral. Some people will have a tendency of going into first gear and just stand there waiting. First, you're putting strain on your leg unnecessarily. Second, you're actually pushing on that pressure plate and keeping it pressed in an unnatural position. It's not meant to be in that position forever. You're standing at a traffic light waiting for the light to turn green. Well, you could just leave it in neutral, rest your leg, put it to the side, let the clutch be. When you're ready to go, push the clutch, and we're going. It really is, think of it at the same time as an automatic. You're gonna pull your foot off the brake pedal and start going. It's gonna take you the same amount of time to just press the clutch, put it in first, and off we go. Just try to minimize, especially in hot weather, especially as the car has miles. You really want to do these little stuff that are going to add up to a longer living clutch. And the other thing you want to do, let's say you live in Colorado, where it's all up, down, and mountains. You're stopped uphill. Now when you let go of the brake pedal, the car is going to roll back, and you're already on the clutch, you're already in first, you're going to have to really rev the engine so it wouldn't roll so much backwards and hit the car behind you. You're going to actually burn the clutch a little bit, because you're going to rev it too high. If you rev it a little bit, it's going to shut off. You're going to rev it too high, you're going to let the clutch go abruptly, and you're going to burn your clutch. Well, here's a quick tip for that. You're stopped with your foot on the brake pedal. Put it in first, pull your parking brake, let the brake go, start your car normally, build up the revs, and then let it go and go. That way you're not having this panic moment where you don't want your car to roll back and hit the person behind you. You're holding it on the parking brake. Do this, but it takes a little bit of practice because you're going to put it in first, rev up your engine, and then kind of do it seamlessly. As you let go of your clutch, let go of your parking brake, and you're going to just go without rolling back. This takes a little bit of practice, but it actually takes that clutch burning when you do a kind of a panic takeoff when you're going uphill. And the last one is, and this one is more kind of an advanced driving technique when it comes to manual transmissions. Believe it or not, some newer cars will do this automatically. Rev match when possible, not for racing situations, but what rev matching means is you're in first gear. You accelerate, your RPMs went to 3,000 RPM, you press the clutch and let go of the gas. Your RPM's just gonna come back down. Don't let them come back down too much. Hold the gas pedal a little bit and then shift into second and let it go. What that does is, as your engine is turning and your transmission is turning, when you engage your clutch, it's not going to be an abrupt engagement where the clutch is going to have to rev up the engine or bring the RPMs down. It's going to be a smooth transition. That's really with rev matching for the health of the clutch. Now, rev matching for racing applications is something completely different, but you can actually take advantage of it and minimize the wear on your transmission as it tries to bring up the revs. This is especially helpful when you're downshifting. You're in 6th gear and you're downshifting into 3rd because you slowed down. Don't just let go of the clutch and let's go. You're going to notice the car will jerk. But if you just rev match it a little bit, bring your revs up, then let go of the clutch slowly, it's going to be a very smooth transition. It's going to be good for your clutch, it's going to be good for your pressure plate, it's going to be good for your motor mounts, transmission mounts, so many things. The less abrupt shifts and vibration you cause by shifting your manual transmission, the better things will be for daily driving. And now we talk about protecting your transmission. Folks, manual transmissions are so much more reliable than automatic transmissions, but there are very few things that you can do that you can actually destroy them very quickly. Let's talk about a few things here. Now, the manual transmission is basically a chunk of metal with more chunks of metal gears inside of it and shafts. There's really not many fragile things, but there's one fragile thing inside of it that usually is the most common failure point: the block ring, or the synchros, or there are so many names for them. They're basically little rings between the neutral position and your next gear. As you're sliding the selector, it's gonna engage the block ring, and that's gonna speed up the gear so you can make a quick engagement on the go. This is usually made out of brass. Aside from using the wrong fluid will destroy those, you can actually destroy them by not driving your car properly. Here's the situation. You're in 1st gear, you're in 2nd gear, you're in 3rd gear, you're in 4th gear, we're cruising along now. People have a tendency to rest their hand on the transmission because I am driving a manual transmission. I need to feel like I am in control. This motion actually is not good for the transmission because now everything is tensed up. When you pull on the transmission like this as you're driving, you're actually putting pressure on the forks, on the selector, and you're putting the selector at a position that is unnatural. Again, here comes that word. You're putting strain on components that do not need strain. Once you are in the gear, let it go. When you're ready to shift, shift again and let it go. And speaking of shifting, I don't see the need for you to fight with the transmission. I see some people, they shift into 1st, then do this, and then you're putting, again, extreme wear on your transmission for no reason. Be gentle. You're not racing. People with the manual transmission, sometimes in spirited driving situations, that's a different story. But you're not doing spirited driving when you're going to work. So be gentle. Remember, every time you shift your transmission, you're moving that selector, you're engaging that block ring, and you are moving your linkage that has bushings. There's a lot of mechanical parts here. There's not really much electronics. Be gentle. Don't fight them. And this comes kind of feel the transmission shift. See, the thing is, that block ring, you can actually feel it. If you really focus, and you're a little bit OCD, maybe like me, as you're engaging your transmission, you're going to feel like a little bit of resistance. Then it shifts. That little bit of resistance is actually the block ring. As you're shifting, you can actually feel it moving and getting this gear in position so it would engage. Feel the transmission, don't force it. Feel the engagement, be gentle, because you know what? These transmissions can easily outlast everything in the car, even the clutch, everything. It can outlast everything in the car if you're gentle. There's no need to be aggressive and abrupt just to make sure you're engaged. Oh, take it easy. It'll engage and feel the engagement. And another thing you can do, see many people, you're driving in fifth gear, we're cruising along, we're happy, you see the traffic light turn red. They're immediately gonna put it in neutral, put it in first gear, and you're still rolling at 40 miles an hour. That is so not good for your transmission. And in some cases, in some cars, you're gonna hear the transmission start whining immediately. Don't do that, because even though you press the clutch, you disengage from the engine, but you cannot disengage from the road. Your internal output shaft is still turning at 40 miles an hour. You put it in first gear, you're gonna spin that input shaft so much unnecessarily. Do not put your gear in first until you're almost at a stop. Folks, first gear is only for takeoff. As soon as you take off, shift into second. And a little bit after that, shift into third. Protect your second gear. There is something, most people say, don't overuse first gear, but I will tell you something. The number one failure in block rings is almost always second gear, because people tend to overuse second gear. See, you're coming to a stop, you're about to take a turn, you shift into second. You take off from first because you want to get off first because it revs so fast. You put it in second, and now you're driving the whole neighborhood in second gear. You're slowing down, you're going 40 miles an hour. You want to slow down and you want to use your transmission, which I don't recommend you do actually. They shift into second. Protect second gear. Try to use third gear instead, or alternate. One day use second, one day use third if you have to slow down. And folks, I cannot emphasize how important that you do not unnecessarily slow down the car. You're driving in sixth gear. You're going to come to a stop. I'm going to shift into fifth gear, then fourth gear, then third gear, then second gear, then first, and we come to a stop. There is no need for that. You just unnecessarily engaged every single gear and pushed the clutch 4 times. Slip, non-slip, slip, non-slip. All this just to protect your brakes. Folks, even the cheapest clutch costs a lot more than brakes. And most manual transmission cars, that daily driven ones, they're small. You don't have really big cars anymore with manual transmission. They're going to be small cars, economy cars that will have day-to-day manual transmission. They're not heavy. You're not really, whatever gear you're in sixth gear, you're going to come to a stop, coast in that gear. And when your RPM gets to about idle, throw in neutral and push your brakes. There's no point. There's no point in wearing down your transmission just to, I don't want to overheat my brakes when you're going in a plain surface. When you're going downhill, different story, because you're going to cook your brakes. But in that case, you're not going to keep downshifting. You're just going to, you're in sixth gear, shift into fifth, let it coast with the brakes a little bit. Fourth, let it coast for a while, not just back forth intentionally just to look cool. You don't look cool when your clutch goes out. You don't look cool when your blocker ring wears out quick because you are not taking care of them, folks. And last but not least, do not forget to service your manual transmission. If you drive a Toyota, manual transmissions, first replacement at 30,000 miles is very important, because what makes shavings in this transmission are the gears when they are wearing in, breaking in if you would, and then the blocker rings. It's a natural process that the blocking rings or the synchros or whatever you want to call them, they will slowly wear down with time and create debris. That is just a natural thing. You want that debris out. It's not really the fluid is losing capacities and we're going to send it to the lab and all. No, you're just trying to get this debris out because you drive at a tight turn, all this debris is going to go around, get thrown back in the gears, and you have enough debris come into a gear that is meshing and spinning fast. You could cause issues unnecessarily. Don't forget to change that fluid. even though it lasts a long time, even though the recommendation is never to replace it, especially the first time. It is important. And with that, folks, I hope this video was helpful, informative. If you still drive a manual transmission car, can we just agree what a joy it is? Not when you're stuck in traffic, but it's just overall a mechanical feeling, a true driver to car connection. And what a beautiful thing. We're sitting in this 2022 Mazda MX-5. I love the manual transmission. It is really fun. Don't love it when we're stuck in traffic, but really love it otherwise for just normal driving. This is not a fast car. It's just a beautiful experience. Folks, I hope this video was helpful, informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some of my other videos. And until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.